Okay.
Okay. So today we are talking with Casey Phillips for our fourth installment of Ask an NMU alum. So Casey, thanks for being with us today. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So when did you graduate from NMU? Can you tell me a little bit about your NMU experience?
Yeah, so I graduated in May of 2015 with my MBA Master's of Business Admin degree from NMU. I did my undergrad in computer science at Western Michigan. So I didn't attend Northern for undergrad, but I did attend it for grad school. Took me about two years, 4 semesters to get my master's degree. It was a really great experience. I met a lot of great friends who I still network with professionally. I still consider great friends, so that was a great aspect of it. I also met a lot of great professors who I consider colleagues now. Like I still will go back to NMU and touch base with them and just kind of see how things are going in the College of Business. They asked me how things are going with me, so it was fantastic. I learned a lot, and I felt like I built a really good professional network in my 2 years at NMU for my master's degree.
Sure. Um, so you said you didn't come here for your undergrad. Can you tell me a little bit about how has getting an MBA from NMU helped you kind of build on what you did in your undergrad experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got my undergrad degree in computer science. So after my undergrad, I worked in web and software development for a couple companies in the downstate area because that was where I went to college, and I enjoyed developing. I thought it was a good career, but it wasn't ultimately what I really wanted to do. I really wanted to get more on the business side and like the management side of technology in general. So I felt that going back and getting my master's degree and getting the MBA degree and its focus on management would help me be able to get into that. And after I got my master's degree at NMU, I think actually a couple months before I graduated at NMU, I accepted a job to be a project manager at Nielsen Technologies, and I worked there for a while and ended up down in Wisconsin working as a project manager for a much larger electronic medical records company. So it's everything that I had hoped to get for my master's degree at NMU, I felt that I got. So that was really gratifying to know that I made the right decision on that.
Cool. This is one of the questions that we had talked about. But did you get a chance to kind of experience some of this beforehand? Did you do any kind of internships during your graduate experience? Or?
In terms of internships that are related to what I'm doing now or anything, or no, I didn't end up doing any internships per se when I was at NMU. I did work as a graduate assistant for two different departments. So I started off as a graduate assistant in the Dean of Students office, not really at all really pertaining to what I'm doing now, but I did enjoy working there. And then my second year of my master's program, I worked as a graduate assistant in the College of Business. So that was a little bit more related to what I'm doing now. I was able to help out some professors with some research, not so much like project management what I'm doing now, but I was able to do a lot of research on this area, which I felt was really valuable. But there were no internships I ended up doing. I tried to apply for some, but the ones I ended up applying for were just either ones that I either applied for too late or they were too far out of state. I just couldn't really find one that was a good fit for me while I was there. So.
Mm-hmm. But you were still able to find the perfect job, essentially, even without the internship experience, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was. So
Cool.
that was good.
Yeah, it must be the grad assistant position that I'm thinking of, because I had heard that you were doing something or that you had done something in undergrad, but you worked as a grad assistant in the College of Business, and you said you did a little bit of research.
Yeah, so I helped a couple of professors with some research projects. I think one was I helped Julio Canedo from the College of Business, and he was doing a research project kind of on I think it was like like demographics within the management world, and kind of like how employees will view like certain traits of their manager. So that was something that I worked with him on, helping him gather all the information, helping him analyze it. Obviously, he had been working on the project for quite some time before I jumped in, but just being able to help him with that and kind of like see like how we were able to turn data into like useful information and what he was able to do with that. It was a really cool process. I enjoyed it.
Cool. So then that kind of takes us up to your current working situation. So you said you started with 906 Technologies, and now you're here at a larger organization. So can you tell me a little bit about what it is you're doing now? Kind of explain a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so after I left 906 Technologies, I went and worked for Epic. They are an electronic medical records company. I think they're the largest in the world. They're headquartered out of Madison. So I worked with them for about a year. I'm actually no longer with them right now, and I'll jump into that second one to do right now. But when I worked for them, I basically worked as a project manager for them for their implementation. So I'd fly across the country to different hospitals and help them plan out how they would implement the Epic software in their hospital. So it was definitely fun, but it's also like a very grueling job. I would say I traveled on average 3 or 4 weeks a month, sometimes up to 7 or 8 weeks in a span. So there was a lot of travel. You were rarely home, mostly living in hotels, and a lot of work. So while I enjoyed the work I was doing, the project management, the travel, and the flying was just a little bit too much out of my comfort zone for what I'm willing to do for work. So I actually ended up leaving Epic and am now actually founded and running my own technology company in the Milwaukee area of Wisconsin. So I've been doing that for the last few months since I left Epic. So.
That's amazing. So what kind of, as somebody who's not necessarily technology based, my undergrad was in ceramics, my graduate is in public administration. So tell me a little bit about what kind of technology company you're running.
Yeah, so we do consulting with mostly small businesses, startups, entrepreneurs. So just especially helping smaller businesses that they really can't afford to hire like their own IT department or to hire their own technology person. There's really a big need for that, especially just considering the fact that the technology market is moving so fast. And as someone that's running like a startup, like an entrepreneur, it's really important to find ways that you can attract clients, attract customers without really having to spend a lot. And some of the most popular ways of doing that are with technology. Setting them up with websites that are going to appear higher in Google search rankings, helping them understand how they can advertise on Google and advertise on Google at low budget and get clients, helping them understand, how they can do a social media marketing. So it's really helping these smaller businesses to be able to utilize technology and be able to attract clients without having to go out and hire someone to do it. Because as you know, these owners of small businesses, they're so busy during a day that for them to keep up on the latest trends on Google advertising, what's going on Facebook and social media, they still have the time to do it. So that's the main objective of the company, is just really helping smaller businesses be able to utilize technology. And we actually partner directly with 906 Technologies. So if any clients we need, if they need like a website developed or like a mobile app or anything, we subcontract that work out to 906 Technologies, and they end up doing that. So it's kind of a partnership that we have going with them as well.
Nice to keep that kind of relationship going with your first employer there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so then tell me, what does a typical day or a typical week look like for you?
A typical day with me, usually I have a few meetings every week, either with potential new clients or touch bases with existing clients. So although the main office I rent is in Milwaukee, I also will travel to, I have offices I can kind of rent on an as-need basis in Chicago, Madison area. So last week I made a couple of trips out to the Chicago area, one to meet with an existing client and one to meet with a potential new client and talk things over. So there is some travel involved, but I'm not like flying over the country. So it's a little bit better than the travel I had before. But really, my weeks are kind of all over the place. It's a variation of doing work with clients, touching base with existing clients, meeting with new clients, attending professional and social networking events. I attend as many of those as I can. If there's any like workshops in the area going on, like I'll attend those. Like I'm always about, like learning other people's ideas of how they run their businesses and kind of things, looking at things that I can improve on. And I would say too, just a lot of the time I spend is really just kind of analyzing what I'm doing, especially from like a marketing and sales perspective, and kind of always like looking at things, kind of crunching the numbers, seeing how I'm doing with the different aspects of advertising and marketing, and just looking at ways that I can improve. So it's definitely the weeks are definitely busy, but I really enjoy it. So I don't really count my hours or looking at my watch all day. So that's nice.
That's gotta be a good feeling, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you like best about what you do?
I would say I just really like the kind of the freedom to be able to make decisions, determining how I'm going to advertise the business, how I'm going to market the business, just really having the freedom to make choices, and knowing that the choices, are making a significant impact, they're ultimately going to make or break whether I succeed. I like the pressure of that, and I really like the challenge of it as well. So it's something that's been a good fit for me. For some people, they may not want the pressure of that. It's definitely not something that's for everyone, but for people that enjoy it, it's something that, it doesn't really bother me. It's something that I wake up every morning and look forward to the challenge of finding out, how I can get better.
Nice. So then on the flip side, of course, what do you like least about what you do?
I guess honestly, the thing I like least would probably almost be the pressure at times too. I would say just kind of like when you're starting your own business, there's it's definitely just a lot of work. And I would say the thing I hate the most is just you definitely have to have a lot of patience, and it's not always the easiest thing. When you're starting a business, you're always going to have you're going to have some bad clients. You're always going to have some ups and downs. You really have to kind of be patient and make sure that you're really like weighing things over the proper time span. I mean, you don't want to start like a new advertising campaign, and in a week you look and say, oh, I got less customers than I did the week before, this isn't working. So I would say that's probably one of the most like frustrating things, and one of the hardest things, to just really having the patience to really be able to kind of analyze things in the right time frame, and not overreact to ups or downs, or a few bad clients, or a couple things not working out. So
that makes sense. Okay, so is it just you working are you the kind of sole proprietor, or do you hire people or interns for your company?
So I'm actually currently in the process. So I've been operating for about 3 months, and I've grown to the point where right now I'm actually in the process of looking to hire my first kind of intern or assistant to kind of help me out, especially with the sales marketing process, take some things off my plate with that. So currently what I'm looking for right now is hiring someone. So I actually have schedule. I anticipate it would be from 6 months to a year to get to the point where I had enough work coming in to need to hire someone. So that's been kind of a good problem to have. It's kind of been at the same time kind of a bad problem, because I've been a little bit busier with some aspects of the business, and I wish I wasn't right now. But at the same standpoint, it's definitely a good problem to have. So that's currently in the process where I'm at right now, is looking to hire a first assistant and intern.
Okay, so what type of person are you looking for? What kind of person would you need to work with?
Yeah, I would say definitely, and I would say like really, for any like small business or startup that you're gonna work for, they're always gonna be looking for someone that's really just a a really driven person, someone that, is really willing to wear a lot of hats with the work they do, someone that's not, afraid to maybe learn something new or get out of their comfort zone. I think, especially with smaller businesses, like when I worked for Now Six Technologies, I wore a lot of different hats for them. I did project management for them. I did like functional management for them. I helped them out with some HR work and hiring, just because they're a smaller company in Now Six Technologies. And when you work with a smaller company, a lot of times they're not going to be able to afford, or at least they may not have enough employees at the time to have, one person that only does HR, or one person that, only does this. So a lot of times you end up having to kind of go outside of what the normal job responsibilities would be with your role. So I would say it's definitely something that I'm looking for, is someone that is willing to kind of step out of their comfort zone. With that being said, I would definitely, in terms of like background, have a preference for someone with a technology background, probably someone who is either kind of in the computer science or the computer information systems program at university, just because they would have a lot of the knowledge and experience already to have to come in and do a lot of the work that my clients need. But with that being said, I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily be opposed to hiring someone that maybe necessarily didn't have that background, if they seem like a very driven person, it seemed like they were willing to kind of go out of their comfort zone and really learn those skills and just learn them quickly. So I would say that's one of the most important things really with any job, especially if you're targeting a smaller business, is just really, showing them that you can learn and that you're a quick learner and that you're not afraid to venture out of, what you already know and learn new things.
I think that's good advice. Okay, so let's see. Is this what you see yourself doing as your future career path? How do you see your future kind of progressing?
Yeah, well, obviously, I would definitely love to keep doing this fully for my career. In terms of whether or not, it would kind of just depend whether or not I'm able to grow it to the level that I want to. I think ultimately, my goal would be to kind of like running a team of like a small team of like 10 to 15 individuals for a technology consulting business. So I would say that that's ultimately my goal and where I want to get. So I certainly hope that it gets to that point one day where I can get away from so much doing the actual work and focus more on kind of like using what I learned in my MBA degree, really focusing more on growing the business, growing the market, and really kind of more of a focus on like planning for the business and the direction than actually doing the work. So I'd say that's probably my ultimate goal that I'm shooting for with it.
Okay. So kind of thinking about what you would maybe tell a student who is either an undergrad or a grad, what do you wish you had known about before you graduated, either from your undergraduate or your graduate program?
Yeah, so I guess especially from not so much after my graduate program, but after my undergraduate program, I guess I just wish I would have known how little I actually knew what I wanted to do. I felt like when I got done with my undergrad program, I think like ultimately I really wanted to get into more of like the hardware and networking side of technology, and now I know that I really don't like that. It's definitely not for me. And fortunately, I never ended up actually getting a job or going down that path, which was probably for the best, because it would have been probably a few wasted years of my career. But I guess that was the one thing, is I wish that I would have had a better idea of like what I ultimately wanted to do. But at the same standpoint, I feel like that's going to be the case with a lot of students. And I think my recommendation would be to just kind of like keep your eyes open with different opportunities. I have a lot of friends that have graduated from programs, and they ended up working in a field that was kind of like outside of where you normally see yourself working with that type of schooling or that type of college education, and they're now doing very well and they really love what they're doing. So that would kind of be one thing I just recommend to students, that, to kind of keep your eyes open, especially now, like it's definitely well known it's not the greatest job market right now, and a lot of jobs can be hard to come from. And then, definitely consider, all the opportunities that are out there and that present themselves to you, and really kind of be open, because you never know that just because it's not what you ultimately plan on doing, it could ultimately be something that makes you happy and that you end up, doing very well in.
Thanks for that. I want to be mindful of your time. Is there anything else that you can think of that you would like to tell NMU students, whether it's about your particular field or about the MBA program? Anything that you want to share with them before we sign off?
I would just say the very last thing is just really work on building a professional network. I know, especially for me, like some of the jobs I've got, like my job like now, Six Technologies, that a lot of that was through the networking connections that I had in the Marquette community, especially if you're someone that's really wanted to stay in a smaller community like Marquette. Going to those professional networking events, meeting people, create a business card with you, like shares and stuff like that, especially in smaller communities, that really goes a long way, because I've seen a lot of times where it's been the case with myself or with other friends who've had that, they'll end up getting a job that was actually never, formally posted online. It was never anything like that. It would just be there's a business owner who, will see someone and they'll really like someone's work and work ethic, and they'll say, I really want this person to work with me, and they'll end up almost like creating, a position to get that person in the door, because they just really want that person's enthusiasm and their hardworkingness. So I would say that's one of my biggest recommendations, is really work on building a professional network, especially, in any network you should, but especially if you're in a smaller network area like Marquette, it can go such a long way. And you can have jobs that you would never be able to find if you didn't have those connections.
I completely agree. Any specific thing that worked really well for you? If there's a student who has not even thought about networking or what that might be, what's the first thing you would tell them to do?
So obviously, like I mentioned before, creating a business card is really key. I think if you go to any networking event, you're going to meet a lot of people. And a lot of times it's really hard, especially, like when you're networking, you're going to be meeting with people that are going to have management positions or ownership positions in businesses, and they're so busy. They meet a lot of people every week. And for them to, if you just introduce yourself to someone and give them your name and kind of your story, a lot of times, that business cards, when they have it after, it kind of like reminds them, and it's a cue for that. Where if you don't have that, a lot of times, like I said, because they're meeting so many people on a weekly basis, it can be hard to kind of keep track of, and you could end up kind of fall into the cracks in that way. So that'd be one recommendation I have. I would say another is just when you go to the event, don't necessarily, go there like with the goal in mind of getting a job. I think, a lot of times you'll see people that, they almost are trying to force the networking too much. I would just say, just get to know the people, just have a good time, and don't put too much pressure on it. I think a lot of times people, so like asking about jobs, it just becomes, a little bit too obvious for some of the other people that someone's necessarily seeking a job. And, like I said, I think a lot of times people that are going to network, they don't have a job available, but if they end up liking you, if they end up hearing good things from you from someone else, if they one day say, if we do need to bring someone in, you're probably going to be at the top of their list. Or if you get to know them long enough and just kind of, keep building rapport and a relationship with them, then, they'll find a way to get you in the door of their company if they really want you.
Okay. Thank you. I think it's definitely great advice for a student, and even younger students, because that networking definitely takes some time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sign off here. Do you mind if we share your contact information with students that might be interested in talking to you about your industry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to sign off, and then I'll get that information from you. But thank you so much for joining us for this 4th alumni chat. It was very, very interesting.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.